You are lying in bed. The lights are off. Your body is tired and ready for sleep. And then, out of nowhere, it arrives. Not a happy memory, not something useful. A moment from 12 years ago when you said the wrong thing in front of people you barely knew. Your face gets hot, your stomach tightens. You physically recoil, alone, in the dark, over something that ended over a decade ago. Why does your brain do this? Why does it hold onto humiliation with a grip it never applies to joy? The answer starts with a part of your brain you've probably heard of but never really understood: the amygdala. It sits deep in your temporal lobe, and its job is simple. It scans everything that happens to you and asks one question: how much does this matter for my survival? Neuroscientist James McGaugh spent decades studying this exact mechanism. His research, published in the Annual Review of Neuroscience, demonstrated that the amygdala does not just process emotion, it actively modulates how strongly a memory gets consolidated into long-term storage. When something emotionally charged happens to you, the amygdala essentially flags it and tells the rest of your brain, remember this one, lock it in, make it permanent. This system was not built for modern life. It was built for a world where forgetting a threat could get you killed. If your ancestor got too close to a predator and survived, that memory needed to be vivid, immediate, and impossible to forget. The amygdala did not evolve to know the difference between a lion and a humiliating comment at a dinner party. It just knows that something happened, your body reacted strongly, and strong reactions deserve permanent storage. This is part of what psychologists call negativity bias, first formally described in a landmark 2001 paper by Roy Baumeister and colleagues, who argued that across nearly every domain of human psychology, bad is simply stronger than good. Losses hurt more than equivalent gains feel good. Criticism sticks longer than praise. And socially, this makes a strange kind of evolutionary sense. Missing out on a pleasure cost you an opportunity. Missing a threat could cost you your life. But there's a second mechanism at work here, one that's even more specific to social humiliation. It's called the spotlight effect, and it was first documented in a famous 2001 study by Thomas Gilovich, Victoria Medvec, and Kenneth Savitsky at Cornell. In one of their experiments, they asked college students to put on a t-shirt featuring an embarrassing image and walk into a room full of strangers. Before entering, the students were asked to guess how many people in the room would notice and remember the shirt. Their average guess was that roughly half the room would clock it. The actual number was less than a quarter. The students were not wrong because they were anxious or irrational. They were wrong because of something built into how human cognition works. We experience our own lives from the inside with extraordinary vividness, and we struggle to adjust enough for the fact that other people are not experiencing us with that same intensity. Gilovich and his team called this an anchoring and adjustment failure. You anchor on how big the moment feels to you, and you simply don't adjust downward enough to account for the fact that everyone else is the main character of their own story, not yours. So here's what's actually happening when you cringe in bed at 2 a.m. Your amygdala tagged that memory as significant the moment it happened, because your body produced a strong stress response: flushed face, racing heart, a flood of cortisol. That tag triggered deeper consolidation, the neurological equivalent of writing something in permanent marker instead of pencil. And separately, your spotlight effect convinced you in the moment that everyone in the room was watching, judging, and would remember it forever. Even though the research consistently shows they forgot within minutes, because they were just as deep in their own spotlight as you were in yours. There's a third piece to this, and it's the part most people don't realize they're doing to themselves. It's called rumination, the act of replaying an event over and over in your mind. And here's the uncomfortable truth about memory. Every time you retrieve a memory, you don't just access it like a file, you reconsolidate it. You strengthen the neural pathway associated with it. Researchers studying intrusive memories have found that this creates something close to a feedback loop. The more you replay the cringe-worthy moment, the more accessible and vivid it becomes, which makes it more likely to intrude again later. You are, in a very real sense, training your brain to remember it better. Compare that to a pleasant memory, say a quiet afternoon that felt nice but unremarkable. There was no spike in cortisol, no amygdala flag, no urgent signal demanding long-term storage. So it gets encoded more weakly. It fades into a general sense that life has been good, without a specific, replayable scene attached to it. This isn't a flaw in your memory system. It's a kind of mercy. If every pleasant moment were stored with the same intensity as your worst social mistakes, your mental landscape would be overwhelming in a different way entirely. There's also a deeper, more relational reason. Embarrassment specifically, not fear, not sadness, earns this kind of treatment. Embarrassment is a social emotion. It exists only in relation to other people, and you're standing among them. And research on social pain has found something striking. The same neural regions that activate during physical pain also activate during social rejection or humiliation. Your brain, on some level, is treating the memory of being laughed at the same way it treats the memory of being burned. Worth flagging, worth avoiding, worth never forgetting. So, what do you actually do with this information at 2 a.m. when the memory surfaces uninvited? Researchers studying repetitive negative thinking have found that the goal isn't to suppress the memory. Trying to forcibly not think about something often backfires and makes it more intrusive. The more effective approach is interrupting the elaboration. The moment you notice yourself replaying the scene frame by frame, you deliberately shift attention to something concrete and present. The feeling of the blanket, the sound of the room, your own breathing. Studies on this kind of attentional redirection have found that repeatedly interrupting the retrieval process can, over time, actually reduce how accessible and vivid the memory becomes. You're not fighting the memory, you're simply declining to reconsolidate it with the same intensity every single time. And there's something genuinely freeing in understanding the mechanism itself. The moment from 12 years ago that still makes your face hot was never as visible to everyone else as it felt to you in the moment. The room was never as focused on you as your nervous system insisted it was. Most of the people who supposedly witnessed it forgot within minutes, caught up in their own internal monologue, worrying about their own perceived mistakes. Your brain isn't broken for remembering it. It's just running ancient software, built for a world of real physical danger, applied to a moment that only ever felt dangerous. The lion was never actually in the room. It only felt that way because, for one brief moment, you believed everyone was watching. They weren't.